The Mystery of the Vanishing Money. Imagine you are building the world's tallest tower out of Legos. You have been working on it for weeks. It is beautiful. It is touching the ceiling. You are so proud of it that you want to take a picture to show all your friends. But then, someone sneezes. Just a tiny sneeze. But because the tower was so tall and wobbled just a little bit, crash! In the blink of an eye, the whole thing smashes onto the floor. Thousands of pieces scatter everywhere. Under the sofa, under the rug, everywhere. If you looked at your phone yesterday morning, that is exactly what it felt like. You opened your app, expecting to see your money growing like a tall Lego tower. But instead, you saw a mess. You saw red numbers. You saw graphs pointing straight down. It looked like a disaster. If you watched the news, the people in suits were shouting. They were saying things like, "The bubble has popped," or "Crypto is dead," or "Run for your lives." It was scary, wasn't it? When grown-ups panic, it makes you want to panic too. You might have felt a knot in your stomach. You might have thought, "Oh no, did I lose my money? Is it gone forever?" But I have a secret to tell you. Come closer. The Legos didn't disappear. When a Lego tower falls, the bricks don't vanish into thin air. They are still there. They are just on the floor now. The tower didn't break because the bricks were bad. The tower broke because it was built too fast, and too many people were trying to stand on top of it at the same time. Today, I am going to tell you a story. It is a mystery story called The Case of the Greedy Borrowers. We are going to learn exactly what happened yesterday. We are going to meet some characters, the saver, the gambler, and the strict shopkeeper. And by the end of this story, you won't be scared of the crash anymore. You will actually be happy about it. You will be the smartest person in the room because you will know how to pick up those Legos while everyone else is crying. Before we open the storybook, I have a question for you, and I want you to answer honestly in the comments section down below. When you saw the red numbers yesterday, what was the first thing you felt? Did you feel scared? Or did you feel excited to buy more? Let me know. I read every comment because I want to know how you are feeling. Are you ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Two Kids in the Candy Store. To understand why billions of dollars vanished in 15 minutes, we have to visit a place I like to call the Global Candy Store. This represents the crypto market. In this store, they sell the most delicious rare candy bars. Let's call them bit bars. Everyone wants one. Now, in this store, there are two very different types of kids shopping. You need to figure out which one you are. Kid number 1 is the saver. This is hopefully you. The saver is patient. The saver mows lawns and washes cars to earn his allowance. He walks into the store with $10 in his pocket. He walks up to the counter and says, "1 bit bar, please." The price is $10. He hands over the cash. The shopkeeper gives him the candy bar. The saver puts the candy bar in his backpack and zips it up tight. He owns it. He walks home. Now, imagine that on his way home, it starts to rain. Or imagine he trips and falls. Does he lose the candy bar? No. It's safe in his backpack. Even if the shopkeeper shouts out the window, "Hey, that candy bar is only worth $5 now." The saver doesn't care. He still has one whole candy bar. He knows that next week, it might be worth $20. He sleeps very well at night because nobody can take his candy away. Kid number 2 is the gambler. This kid is different. He is in a rush. He wants to be the king of the playground today. He walks into the store with the same $10, but he looks at the saver with just one candy bar and laughs. "Only one?" he says. "That's boring. I want 10 candy bars." But he only has $10. He can't afford 10 bars. That would cost $100. So he goes to a special counter in the back of the store. This is the leverage counter. The man working there, let's call him Mr. Exchange, is wearing a sharp suit and a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "Mister," Exchange says, "Hello, little gambler. I see you only have $10, but you want 10 bars. I can help you with that. I will lend you the other $90. I will give you a giant bag with 10 candy bars in it." The gambler's eyes go wide. "Wow, really? You're the best." "But," says Mr. Exchange, holding up a finger, "there is a rule. This is the most important part of the story, so listen carefully. This is the rule of the red line. Mr. Exchange says, I am lending you $90 of my own money. I love my money. I never ever want to lose my money. So I will let you hold this bag of 10 candy bars. If the price goes up, you can sell them. Pay me back my $90 and keep all the profit. You will be rich." The gambler imagines buying a new bike with all that profit. "However," Mr. Exchange whispers, "if the price of candy drops, even just a tiny bit, I will not wait for you to pay me back. If the price drops so much that my $90 is at risk, I will instantly rip the bag out of your hands, sell the candy to the first person I see, and keep your $10 as a penalty." The gambler is so greedy that he doesn't listen to the warning. He grabs the bag of 10 bars. Now, think about this. The saver is walking home whistling. The gambler is walking home sweating. He is holding a heavy bag that doesn't belong to him, and he is terrified that the price might drop. He is not an owner. He is just renting the candy. Chapter 2. The Balloon Party. The Build-Up. Now, let's fast forward to yesterday morning. Imagine a giant birthday party room. This room represents the market. Yesterday, the room was absolutely packed with gamblers. Everyone was feeling good. They were all shouting, "The price is going to the moon! Candy bars are going to be worth $1 million!" Every single person in that room had visited Mr. Exchange. They were all holding those heavy bags of borrowed candy. We call this being overleveraged. It's like a room full of people holding giant red balloons. The room is so full of balloons that you can't even see the floor. It sounds squeaky and tight. When the room is this full, it becomes dangerous. Why? Because everyone is standing on a floor made of trapdoors. You see, Mr. Exchange, the guy in the suit, is watching from a balcony above the party. He has a big button in his hand. If the price of candy drops, he presses the button and the trapdoors open. The smart money. These are the really rich, experienced investors like the whales. They are standing in the corner. They aren't holding balloons. They are watching. They see that the room is too crowded. They know that if just one person pops a balloon, everyone will jump and chaos will happen. So the whales wait. They are patient. They know a secret. The heavier the bag, the harder the fall. I want to pause here for a second. If you are enjoying this story so far, and if it's helping you understand the madness, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We tell stories like this every week so that you can be the saver, not the gambler. Okay, back to the party. Chapter 3. The Robot in the Basement. So, the party is loud. Everyone is happy, but then something happens. Maybe someone sneezes. Maybe a news report comes out that says it might rain today. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just a tiny little push. The price of the candy bar drops from $10 to $9.90. Just 10 cents? For the saver, who cares? 10 cents is nothing. But for the gambler holding 100 times leverage, that 10 cents is a disaster. Suddenly, a siren goes off. We This is the liquidation engine. It's not a person. It's a robot in the basement of the exchange. The robot doesn't have feelings. It doesn't care if it's your birthday. It doesn't care if you needed that money for rent. The robot only cares about math. The robot sees the price drop and says, "Beep boop, gambler number 45 is losing money. Sell his candy now." Snap. The trapdoor opens under gambler number 45. He falls through. The robot instantly takes his bag of candy and throws it onto the market to sell it. Now, here is the physics of the crash. When the robot throws that candy onto the market to sell it, what happens to the price? When you sell a lot of something, the price goes down. So, the robot selling gambler 45's candy makes the price drop from $9.90 to $9.80. But, oh no, at $9.80, gambler number 46 is now in trouble. The robot sees this. Beep, boop, new target acquired. Snap. Another trapdoor opens. Another bag of candy gets dumped onto the market. This makes the price drop to $9.70, which triggers the next gambler, and the next, and the next. This is called a liquidation cascade. It is like a row of dominoes. The first domino falling isn't a big deal, but it knocks over the second one, which knocks over the third one. The robot starts moving faster and faster. Sell, 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 sell. It's a chain reaction. It's a nuclear meltdown of debt. And the crazy part? Nobody actually wanted to sell. The gamblers wanted to keep their candy. But the robot forced them to sell because they broke the rules of the loan. This is why the red line on the chart goes straight down. It's the sound of thousands of trapdoors opening all at once. Chapter 4. The Empty Swimming Pool. Now, you might be asking a very smart question. You might ask, but wait, if the robot is selling the candy, shouldn't there be people buying it? Where are the buyers? This brings us to the scariest part of the crash, the disappearing water. Imagine the market is a swimming pool. The water in the pool represents the buyers, people who have put in orders saying, "I will buy candy if it drops to $9. Usually the pool is deep. If you fall in, the water catches you. Splash, you are safe. But yesterday, when the robot started throwing millions of candy bars into the pool, the buyers got scared. They looked up and saw an avalanche of candy falling from the sky. They thought, "Whoa, that is falling too fast. If I try to catch that, it might break my fingers. I'm getting out of here. So, what did they do? They canceled their buy orders. They drained the water out of the pool. This is called a liquidity vacuum. Suddenly the pool is empty. It's just concrete. The robot is frantically trying to sell the candy, but there is nobody there to buy it at $9. Anyone? Screams the robot. Silence. Okay, I sell at $8. Silence. Okay, I sell at $7. The price has to free fall through empty space until it hits the concrete floor. That is why the price crashed 10% in just a few minutes. It wasn't because the candy was bad. It was because the people who usually buy the candy went on a lunch break to hide from the falling dominoes. Chapter 5. The rich uncle walks in, and then silence. The dust settles. The last domino has fallen. The last gambler has been sent home with empty pockets. The robot turns off. The floor of the shop is covered in cheap candy bars. It looks like a mess. And this is the moment, the exact moment, where the wealth transfer happens. Remember the saver? And remember the smart whales who were watching from the corner? They walk into the middle of the room. They look around. They see perfectly good bit bars lying on the floor. And look at the price tag. 5 minutes ago, these cost $10. Now, because of the panic, they are selling for $8. The rich uncle smiles. He opens his wallet. He takes out his cash, real cash, not borrowed money, and he starts scooping up the candy. He buys everything. He is getting the exact same asset that the gamblers just lost, but he is getting it at a massive discount. He isn't scared of the red candles. He loves the red candles. The red candles are his Black Friday sale. This is why the price bounces back up so fast after a crash. We call it a V-shaped recovery. It bounces because the smart money steps in to clean up the mess. The candy moves from the weak hands, the nervous gamblers who borrowed money, to the strong hands, the patient owners who have cash. The gamblers leave the store crying. The owners leave the store with a backpack full of cheap candy. Conclusion. Which kid are you? So let's close the storybook and come back to the real world. What did we learn today? We learned that the murder in the market wasn't a murder at all. It was a cleanup. It was the system flushing out the people who were too greedy. If you are new to crypto, this can be scary. But if you understand the story, it becomes simple. Here are the 2 rules to survive in Cryptoville. Rule number 1, don't touch the hot stove. Leverage is a hot stove. If you are a beginner, don't borrow money to trade. Just be a saver. If you buy spot and cash, the robot can never come for you. You can hold your Bitcoin for 10 years, and Mr. Exchange can never force you to sell. You are invincible. Rule number 2, when the dominoes fall, go shopping. Next time you see the price crash 10% in an hour, don't panic sell. Don't throw your candy away just because the gamblers are falling through trapdoors. Take a deep breath, realize that it's just the robot doing its job, and maybe, just maybe, see if you have some extra allowance to buy the discount. I want you to make a promise to yourself today. Promise that you will stop looking at the 15-minute chart and getting scared. Zoom out. Look at the big picture. We are building a community of savers here, people who want to build wealth slowly, safely, and smartly. We don't need to get rich by Tuesday. We want to be rich forever. If you want to join this community, and if you want more bedtime stories about money that explain complex things simply, click that subscribe button right now. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next lesson. And hey, before you go, drop a comment below. Tell me, I am a saver. Let's fill the comments section with that promise so the algorithm knows we are the smart ones. Thanks for reading. Keep your backpack zipped tight. I'll see you in the next one.